For today's tabletop testing, we're going to be putting Gholdengo up against Ancient Toolbox. Gholdengo no longer has to be fearful of Path of the Peak, which is a fantastic boon for the deck. It means we no longer have to play the Worker supporter, and in that place we are adding in a couple new supporter cards actually. Morty's Conviction potentially can draw a decent amount of cards, and the Cryptomaniac has amazing synergy within the deck list, letting us put 2 cards on top of our deck before we use either concealed cards, coin bonus, or of course Poker Stop. So there's all sorts of ways you can get activation of this and work your way into the most important cards at the time. Gholdengo's also been able to make a bunch of space by getting rid of those cross switchers and adding in the new A-Spec Prime Catcher. And Shai is going to be rocking the same Ancient box that we played in our previous video. It's the senior winning list, so definitely good pedigree from that Champions League tournament where you have 29 Ancient cards and then just the bare essentials for non-Ancient cards within the deck list. The entire build around is the Vengeful Feathers attack, which does 70 plus 10 more for each Ancient card in your discard pile, so naturally we are trying to use our Vessels, Ultra Balls, even Poker Stop to an extent to thin the deck out of our Ancient cards to improve our damage output and ideally get towards 1-hit KOs in the late game. If you're looking for PTCG live codes, make sure you check out the Potown store. You can get a 5% discount on your orders using that code OmniPoke. So we're getting straight into it then. I am on the left and I start with a Gimme Ghoul and have an immediate Hisuian Heavy Ball, which is pretty nice. No Pokemon in there though. A couple actually really important cards. 2 of my superiors are in there, as well as an Irida, which is a shame. We do have an Earthen Vessel to kick things off though. I can get rid of a Water Energy, which is fantastic, and I can get 2 energy out of the deck. It's always nice to get a few Water Energy, particularly banked in the discard pile, so we can access our Star Portal as our Palkia and Greninja are kind of the backup attackers of the deck. I have double Gimme Ghoul, I have a few energy in the hand, and I have Gholdengo for next turn. I can spin the Poker Stop quickly. No dice there. Do get rid of a Roxanne, which is our one-of, which is a real shame, as well as one of our Gholdengo. As we pass things over to Shai here, I was really just looking for more ball search in the opener. At least we get another energy in the discard pile to help us out. Shai has the Roaring Moon lead, and looks like a few different item options in the hand. First of all, he's going to Vessel, does have to choose something to discard here. He's going to get rid of the Slither Wing, mostly a fighting type coverage tech to help out against Iron Hands, and a little bit against Arceus if you can do it early. So that's some easy fodder here. So I can get a couple of energy into the mix and we'll Nest Ball out Greninja, which is fantastic for him because he can also get his draw engine rolling now. There isn't much of an engine in the deck, but Greninja certainly is a key piece of that. He's going to Poker Stop first, gets rid of Defiance Band. Actually, 3 cards go there. The Great Tusk as well as Poker Stop, both for trying to utilize that stadium. So the stop's basically going to be sticking around all game. Let's see what Shai can conjure up, though. Has another Vessel, so can get rid of another Darkness Energy and can pull a couple more out of the deck. Not sure if he has access to Sada. That would be the thing that sort of unlocks his early game attacking option here. Looks like he'd be at 110 straight out the gate. Actually, the Gimme Ghouls do have Darkness Weakness, so it could be even more. I do see a Sada in the hand, so here we go. It is going to be 3 more cards for Shai here, and we'll be able to unleash a Vengeful Feathers immediately, whilst also taking out a threat for me. Can even bench another Roaring Moon. That was a big pickup from the Sada. And we pass over to myself, who has not much of a board to work with. I do top deck Buddy Poffin though, which is going to be really, really important to re-establish some of these Gimme Ghoul, because I'm not working with much right now. Really helpful that I can get a couple of these out, then most likely straight into the coin bonus, possibly Poker Stopping first. Depends really what I'm digging for here. I think I could thin the deck with like Iridas and whatnot, so I think, yeah, I do like coin bonusing first. If I was to draw into any supporter card, I could utilize that first. We Poker Stop. We get rid of a second Gholdengo, so that's 2 Gholdengo EX already in the discard pile via the Poker Stop. I can Nest Ball out a Radiant Greninja though, which is something. I think my only supporter in hand is Morty's Conviction, which isn't really great right now. Going to conceal cards away a Water Energy. I actually think, yeah, we can Nest Ball out a Palkia now, which is also pretty good. I think I do opt to go for a Morty this turn, and I think I probably should have held it just for more value, because I can already guarantee an attack just with the Superior that's already in my hand, and just digging 2 cards actually means I'm -1 from that, which actually is really bad for Gholdengo, where a lot of your supporters aren't actually plussing you from the hand, so I actually have to lose a Cryptomaniac here, which is obviously a draw from the Morty. So I go down to a 0-card hand and just take 1 prize. So I'm really, really hoping that Shai can't ramp all the way up to 260 here. That would be a mammoth task for him. So I'm hoping that this Gholdengo EX can stick around for a couple of turns. But yeah, the Morty was kind of questionable. I most likely should have just gone with a superior that was already in hand and guaranteed the KO and held Morty for a future turn. Because I know Shai probably wants to get more Pokemon developed anyway, and it wasn't actually giving me that much value. I could have just, used the superior out the gate. But regardless, we carry on here. Shai's able to Greninja for a couple cards. I think I see a Fluttermane. Not sure if there's any other attacking Pokemon that you can put into play here. Going to Pokegear, looking for Sada, obviously, because he has to reload a attacker this turn, and Roaring Moon is up front and ready to rumble, really. The Sada is the pickup from the Pokegear, which is really helpful. Does he have any other Ball Search, is the big question. I think it's just this Fluttermane, which isn't ideal. You can put it down, and it can eventually attack, but it is an expensive attacker with 3 colours in the attack cost, which does hurt. Shai's going to spin the Pokestop. Gets rid of 3 cards, but 2 of them are ancient cards, so it is still helping with his overall Vengeful Feathers game plan. We'll see the Ancient Drum, or Drum of Awakening, I think it is. Can't remember what it's called. But a couple cards for him. He can then Sada out to Fluttermane as well as the Roaring Moon itself. I'm having a look at how many ancient cards are in the discard pile. Getting up there, to be honest with you. I will be able to tank a hit, but looks like it's 190 damage total. So really respectable chunk for a turn 2 attack. You can see how this deck really does ramp. Get another Pokestop, and again, no cards from it, which is a real issue. Gonna concealed cards. Note we're gonna Rod first, because I want to draw back into some of these Gholdengo. Just put 2 of those back in. Just give myself better odds of coin bonusing into an extra card, essentially, is the idea here. Had some pretty rough Pokestops so far. We do have really good ratios in this deck, but it's just not worked out for us. Gonna coin bonus first by the looks of things, then Greninja. We're once again having a look. Yeah, it's gonna be an Irida next, which means I can thin the Palkia out, possibly. Or a Manaphy, which could be fodder for Superior. Yeah. Looks like it's gonna be Superior and Manaphy. Just guarantees that I can, again, take the KO here. Oops. Then the Greninja's going to come in. Draw a couple more cards. I finally get a second Gholdengo online, so I can get 1 more coin bonus in. Then we do see the Palkia V-Star coming into play. And looks like I'm debating, yeah, once again going down. It looks like I hold an energy over Irida there, which is questionable, but means I can get a turn attachment in, which is pretty solid. And then we're going to hit the 150 with Gholdengo EX. Palkia kind of being my tankiest Pokemon. And it's also a Pokemon that, like, I don't need anything next turn if this Palkia is powered up. And there's also 90 hit points on Fluttermane, so possibly it's me wanting to get full Star Portal value on Greninja next turn as well. That could be fairly relevant at some point. Shai have a horrible Pokestop getting rid of Sada. I believe that's Sada number 3 down, so I think there's possibly 1 more in the deck. As we have a look through what ancient cards are gone. Yeah, these Pokestops have been rough for both of us, to be honest with you. Shai once again debating a Vessel play here. Possibly more energy going into the discard pile. Just debating. Going to get rid of a Switch card instead here. Obviously playing Vessel still ramps the damage. I think we're at 12. No, it must be more than 12, because he hit me for 190 last turn. Yeah, so maybe it's like 13, 14 or so ancient cards in the discard pile right now. It's going to be a whiff on Pokegear, which is a little rough. Looks like it's an Explorer's Guidance, so it's going to be no damage this turn for me, which is a big break and really rough for Shai. I think that's exactly what he's been lacking, the Ball Search cards. So, yeah, you can see that that's been a big issue. Pokestop not helping him get there, and not naturally drawing into any of these. Looks like Nespal is definitely a keep, and I think he's also debating keeping this Pal Pad just to reload some Sada, which also makes a ton of sense. So the rest is going to have to get pitched, but it's really rough when there were such good cards like bunched together in that 6, and not even any ancient cards really, just the Ball Search that he's been whiffing this entire time. So looks like it's a tough choice for Shai, trying to figure out how he maps out the sort of reload here of pressure. Obviously, we're going down another prize without doing much this turn. But possibly not even wanting to Nest Ball out a Pokemon this turn. I guess he could still do it. Oh, he is going to. in the end. It's a little bit questionable to get Roaring Moon down, actually, because, I mean, it's not difficult for me to gust with Prime Catcher in the list now. But I guess I have a low hand size. I only have a 2-card hand, so maybe Shai's hedging at this point that I can't gust. It's just going to be a pass over to me. We pick up another Gholdengo, so I actually have a decent amount of draw here. I can't coin bonus the active because of Fluttermane, but I can coin bonus the bench. And I do have the Irida. And immediately I'm going Prime Catcher because that's exactly what we want to take out that Roaring Moon. Again, the Fluttermane isn't a huge threat for us. And it also unlocks another coin bonus. I'm going to get one more in. I think because I coin bonus bench, it maybe indicates that I'm going to go for a Palkia attack this turn. I could also Prime Catch... Yeah, I can Prime Catch Greninja just to deny some draw power here. Oh no, it looks like I'm definitely going for Roaring Moon, right? I think Shai was having fun at this point because he didn't want the Roaring Moon to go down. But I definitely announced the Roaring Moon to come in the active. that'll be fixed now. But yeah, there was maybe a line where you try and trap Greninja and use my own Greninja to knock out Fluttermane, but I don't think it's all that important. I get the Star Portal in before Shai re-promotes the Fluttermane. That's just a small thing there that I want to get access of it while I can. But yeah, it looks like I'm in the ascendancy for the prize race because Shai has to re-establish another Roaring Moon, and that's really been troubling him. Just lacking those ball search cards, essentially, has been the issue in this first game. Might have to spin the stop again. I don't think there's many ball search cards left for him. He explored away a ton of Ultra Ball and Nest Ball and whatnot. You can see Shai literally holding his head because he's in that awkward situation of, like, how does he actually access some of these pieces? With so many Koraidon and Roaring Moon in the discard pile already, he's actually really low on attacking threats. He's also eyeing up which ball search he has available to him. A lot of energy also in the discard pile, so he's actually really low on useful stuff at this stage. So he might even have to attack with Fluttermane this turn, but again, that's expensive to attack with. And it would be another Sada with only one target, which also is really rough. He's going to spin the stop, I think. Does find Nest Ball. I think that's his last Nest Ball in deck. Does get rid of a Sada, but at least he can be gaming now. And he's going to get a Roaring Moon. One more Koraidon in the deck. He's really thin on cards remaining as well. So he has to get something done with what's remaining here. It is going to be a Sada. He does still have Rod, don't forget, so he can reload some of these Pokemon at some point, but it's going to be a Fighting to the active, a Darkness to the bench. And we'll see, is Shai going to come in and swing with the Roaring Moon? I'm going to think he's close to getting a KO. If he can't KO this turn, he does have Counter Catcher in hand, so he could Counter Catch up the damaged Gholdengo and actually get a KO with Fluttermane here. It'd be a Darkness Energy attachment. It is going to be the Counter Catch. So that 190 from earlier will be finishing off the damaged Gholdengo. And also he can place 2 counts on this Palkia, trying to put him a little bit closer into range. So he has managed to level up the prize race here. And obviously being a Puritan single prizer deck, he can make it pretty difficult for me, actually. Especially when I've got no Roxanne remaining to disrupt him. Gonna see the draw for turn. And we have a Superior. It's going to get rid of some Pokestops. Going to get some energy into the mix. Get a turn attachment banked onto a Gholdengo here. Let's see what else I have access to. We're level on prize cards right now. There's really not a lot I can do in any way of disrupting Shai, to be honest with you. I just have to take the prize. Because, yeah, that one Roxanne is the only option that we have. No Power Pad in the deck list either. So when it goes, it goes. So it's really down to what Shai can do. I think the only limiting factor is how many Sada he has remaining and how many Pokemon he has remaining. Because right now he's got Explorers in hand. He has a couple other Ancient cards. He has the Super Rod. But the Sada's in the deck still. And I think he has no way to draw with Greninja. And obviously Pokestop isn't helping him here. So again, Shai having to go into the think tank because he has no real easy way of taking this KO and then also reloading another Roaring Moon. That's the issue. He's also just having a quick count of remaining cards in the deck. Maybe there's a chance he could Pokestop and hit Gear. Gear then hits the Sada. It's going to be a Rod first by the looks of things. So he doesn't have to Sada this turn. He can go Rod and get turn attachments in with Explorer. But Explorer also has to not hit some certain stuff. Like, he needs to not get rid of Sada. He has to not get rid of the other Roaring Moon that he's putting back into the deck now. He's also just having a quick gander because, yeah, this is the first time I'm playing the decks. So definitely makes sense to just know that he's playing correctly. And I think this is the right line. Going for an Explorer this turn is probably safer. And just hope that you don't hit too many of your outs. Oh, he's going to stop here first. Or is he going to... I feel like Explorer is the stronger player. Yeah, it is going to be... I remember us having this long debate, to be honest with you, of what the best choice is. It's such an awkward supporter, this Explorer's Guidance, because... yeah, you can only keep 2 of those pieces. And if there's too many good cards in that top 8, his deck is so thin... And he needs so many pieces. He needs to keep that Sada around. He needs to keep Darkness Energy around and Roaring Moon around. Depending on what prize cards remain, yeah, he's in a tough spot. I think his other debate is he could Poker Stop and, again, still hit that gear. But, again, there's still some really awkward discards. So it's definitely a tough choice for Shai. So after even more deliberating, Shai eventually goes for Poker Stop. Darkness Energy is allowed. He's just not allowed to get rid of both, which I believe is bad for him. And then Countercatcher. So I think he was just looking for a Ball Search or a Gear. I think that was the thing. But the awkward thing about Poker Stopping now is that you can't use the Explorer. It's just going to be an Ancient Booster Capsule into a Countercatch, into a Switch card to try and protect the Roaring Moon, and then just a pass to me. But it should mean that I can just simply attack twice to win the game here. I'm going to do some bonus coining, going to get an attachment in, and I'm just going to throw 3 energy away to take the KO, and I know now that I'm pretty secure. There is finally the Poker Gear. It does get Sada, but I think he decks out with Sada now, because I think he has so few cards remaining in the deck. He can go down his way, I suppose, but yeah, this is all she wrote. And this definitely is a deck where you have to juggle those resources, and definitely a tougher deck than some people may give it credit for in the opening stages. But yeah, first game goes to me, mostly because I think Shai had some pretty awkward poker stops, and that late game sequence was a little bit rough. Having to Sada onto one target each time is so rough. You definitely need to find those early game Pokemon just to swing energy onto, which means you can more freely explore on other sort of off turns, if that makes sense. So you're not locked into having to refine so many Pokemon turn by turn. So getting into the second game then, Shai leads off with Roaring Moon and immediately has Nest Ball, so can grab that Radiant Greninja to begin cycling these energy, which is obviously a big part of the deck to unlock half of your supporter cards. It's a pretty big deal. Looks like it's going to be Vessel getting rid of that Slitherwing. Once again, not really for this matchup. Its damage output is pretty poor, but can trade in the Slitherwing for a couple of Darkness Energy and begin to not only get an attachment in, which is really good when you go first, but also begin drawing with Greninja here to bank energy in the discard pile. I'm really surprised he chose to get rid of Fighting Energy there and not Darkness because of Sada, but either way, it is going to be a pretty nice turn one for him, all things considered. Pretty low-key, but he's set himself well, and I believe he has an Explorer for next turn. I've once again got the Buddy Buddy Poffin, which is great. I have the double Gimme Ghoul to kick things off. Moving this Greninja might be a bit of a headache for me. Maybe I have to commit a turn one attachment to one of my Pokemon here. But I'm hoping maybe that this Greninja could be a bit more of a sponge, a bit tankier than certainly the Darkness Weak 50 hit point Gimme Ghoul. After a quick search, I can get a Hisuian in and actually get value this time around with that third Gimme, which is fantastic. Let's see if I have any supporter to play here. It's going to be a quick Poker Stop. I get rid of Water and Poker Stop. Actually, a really, really good one, to be honest with you. Even if I'm only getting one Gimme out here, that's still really solid for me. The full board is what you want to see. Just giving yourself as much access to coin bonus as possible is fantastic because our supporters aren't really draw supporters per se. The majority of them are just tutoring certain cards. The draw really comes from your abilities, so pretty nice to pass things over. No turn attachment, but we take that on the balance of things. Possibly Shai does us a favour and takes a KO on the active anyway, or possibly we can dig towards Prime Catcher regardless, so Shai does now have a couple Fighting Energy in the discard pile, and can Sada to the Corridon that he's found, possibly. Could go for Pokestop as well. Yeah, it's going to Pokestop. Does find Nest Ball. That's a really good Pokestop. Also gets rid of Darkness Energy. So now Shai can Nest Ball out a backup Roaring Moon. That was actually a really great 3 cards for him. And now can Sada fighting to Koraidon Darkness to Roaring Moon. Oh, actually going to go for the Explorer, which is interesting. No, it's going to change things up for the Sada. It's a tough one, honestly. I like just banking a Sada when you have that guarantee, but also he doesn't have to Sada this turn, so also just getting more... Oh, I think he may just be lacking the ancient cards in the discard pile. I think that's the reason why we've gone the Explorer route instead here, hoping to get rid of more ancient cards, but I think there's only one Fluttermane in that top 6. The good news is Shai can get another Roaring Moon into play, which is nice, and I believe he has that drum in hand, so maybe we'll be drawing a few more cards here. Obviously, the drum itself is a +10 damage for your Vengeful Feathers. 4 cards, pretty solid. I also see an Earthen Vessel, so maybe he can get there. Giving you a bit of a drumming display there while Shai goes through this turn. Figures out a way to 130 damage. I think I see off to the side a decent number of ancient cards now. He would need 6 in the discard pile. And yeah, looks like it is going to be a KO, and really sets the tempo quite nicely here. Also, a pretty chunky Roaring Moon with that Ancient Booster attached as well. We can get into Gholdengo EX. That leads to another one, and I even have Ultra Ball in hand, so I have many ways to draw here. We actually do have our Mortis Conviction. This time it's drawing 4 cards, which is a bit better. Fairly happy to see energy hit the discard pile, because obviously we have Superiors and regular energy retrievals at our disposal. Looks like I'm eyeing up another Ultra Ball here. Whether it's worthwhile compared to just using Superiors to close out that KO. Possibly debating a Pokestop. Yep, it is going to be Pokestop. Again, no help, unfortunately. No items in that top 3. I think I was just looking for an easier discard, to be honest with you. In the end, it's just going to be getting rid of 2 energy and then reloading those 2 energy back into the hand so I can get a turn attachment and still throw 4 away here to hit that 200 threshold with Make It Rain. So I've bounced it back pretty nicely and got this response, but it is, again, in that same position as last time where Shai is that 1 prize deck. He just needs to ramp that damage output, and if at any point he can take 1-hit KOs on our 2 prize Pokemon, doesn't necessarily even have to be this turn, he just have to keep up a steady chain of attacks. And if he's able to do so, he should be in cruise control to close out this game. It's going to be down to me this time to keep an eye on that Roxanne and disrupt him. We do see a quick turn attachment from Shai into the Pokestop. Does get rid of an Explorer and a backup Stadium. He gets to keep the Switch card. That should be in the hand, right? Looks like Shai wasn't bothered about it. Maybe he just wanted to... Well, he can't even burn it, I suppose. Yeah, that Switch card should definitely be in hand, but I suppose it just wasn't what he was looking for. Going to have a quick look at some energy. It's going to Sada. So let's just pretend he played the Switch card onto the Roaring Moon and turn attached to the new one. I don't think it's going to be a relevant card in this matchup. He's already turn attached, of course. But yeah, has got this Moon ready to rumble. Can once again throw an Ancient Booster Capsule on. Don't see a reason not to. And Shai just going to hold everything, I think, and maybe just swing for a decent chunk. A fairly routine 2-shot here, 170 damage coming in with the Vengeful Feathers. We're going to coin bonus the active, then the bench. Really great to see how much draw power you can get from your Pokemon in this build. Again, Palkia V-Star is my tankiest Pokemon, so trying to get that into the mix is certainly reasonable. Also a card that doesn't really need any hand cards to help me out to be swinging into these single prizes. I'm going to Vessel away a Manaphy. In the deck of a couple more energy, just 2 water. I think I've thinned the deck of quite a few energy by this point. But that's a guaranteed 100 damage. Looks like I'm just tossing up how much I can deal here. I'm going to get a turn attachment in, then throw 4 more into the discard pile to again deal that 200 threshold. I think there's 9 energy in my discard pile now. So I think I've filtered the deck pretty nicely of those. And yeah, sat on a decent hand size. Shai can bounce back with this Roaring Moon. Actually going to attach to the bench, which means he's got Sada in hand. There you go. Going to see 3 more cards. This game, he's been able to chain his attackers way, way better, right? He's currently behind on prize trade, but this turn he'll go ahead for the first time. And it only takes, a couple more attacks for Shai to close out the game here. With these Roaring Moons. I think there's also the Defiance Band in hand, possibly debating whether that goes anywhere. The only real worry is that if he does take this 2-prize knockout, he would be getting into Roxanne range, which is possibly a concern. But it's something you've got to do, and at least you've got Double Moon developed. I don't think I actually should Roxanne this turn, because he already has a backup Moon. I think I need to at least take out these 2 Pokemon before debating a Roaring Moon. So I doubt I'll Rox this turn. I'll probably look to just take the KO, maybe disrupt some other way. We see a Palkia come in. Really just want to establish my board as much as possible, just get more Gholdengo into play. Maybe I can attack with Greninja at some point, but there's no obvious prizes for it right now. I can Ultra Ball away a Letter of Encouragement and a Palkia. Oh no, we're actually going to change that sequence. We're just going to grab the Superior instead, because I think I don't actually have guaranteed knockout without this. So we do just change the Ultra Ball from the Irida here. We end up coin bonusing into Superior, so maybe a missequence there to not just bonus first, to be honest with you. But I can thin some Palkia pieces now, then we get our other coin bonus in. Do run to Prime Catcher, but that's not too handy right now, and the thing I want to KO is in front of me. Palkia comes into play, and there's the 4 energy once again, just to take the KO. We're keeping pace, but really it's going to come down to, especially, I mean, if Shai goes to 1, then we could have a pretty powerful Roxanne against him. I'm mostly worried about if Shai can get another Roaring Moon developed with an energy attachment, that's really scary. But there are already 4 Darkness and 3 Fighting in the discard pile, and is that 3 Roaring Moon in the discard pile as well? So he probably needs to get Super Rod into the mix with a turn attachments. That's kind of the biggest stuff he can do, and straight away we do see a Super Rod in the hand. Or maybe he's debating Poker Stopping first. Yeah, a few other debates for Shai here. There's so much sequencing going on into the later stages. You can see how Shai can get there pretty easily with just a 2-attack map, but it's just guaranteeing that he can get that second Roaring Moon established, but also just not vulnerable to hand disruption, just have one more ready to go. He should get pretty close, though. I see Super Rod, Vessel, and I think there's Ultra Ball as well, so you can at the very least make a Roaring Moon with an energy. He's going to get 2 Roaring Moon and 1 energy back into the deck. He can then Ultra Ball, gets rid of 2 more Ancient cards, gets Roaring Moon, can then Vessel and get a ton attachment onto it. There's a quicker... Oh, he actually goes Gear first. Does hit Sada, though. So yeah, now we can Sada. And then Corridon can also have an energy attached to it. He might also be debating how he ramps this turn. He might need to Explorer just to actually hit 260 this turn. It depends on what he was able to Ultra Ball away. It is going to be the Explorer, though, so I think that's the only other thing that he had to juggle here, to be honest with you. That's the constant thing that I can't tell because it's slightly off screen, but there you go. 4, 8, 12, 16 Ancient cards in the discard pile right now. That makes 17, I believe. And I think there's still Vessel in hand, which is not only a card that he can play, but you could also get rid of another Ancient card with it. It's going to be another Poker Gear. Shai's going to have a look at what's remaining. Does have the Explorer. And possibly now he can Vessel away or Ultra Ball away. Yeah, the Explorer and the Vessel. And get that backup Moon. So that's gone pretty nicely for him, all things considered. But the only issue is he's not Sarded here. So he will be vulnerable to... So he had to Explorer to hit that 260. But yeah, now he is very vulnerable to hand disruption. And straight away I Roxanne. The deck's pretty thin for Shai, though. So possibly there's a chance. But he does need some very specific cards. Quite a few Ancient Supporters down. He basically has to find Sada from the top 2 here. Plus the top deck. For me, it really doesn't matter. I can get a coin bonus in. But I already have that Star Portal to take a KO here. So that's pretty much guaranteed. It's just really, from this stage, about how I can better present my board. But yeah, there's the 3 energy just going on to Palkia. I can Superior just to get a ton of attachment onto Gholdengo. And then we're going to take the knockouts. Go down to 2 and hope that this was a painful Roxanne, essentially. Let's see what Shai's working with. I think it's Palpad, Ancient Capsule, and Koraidon. A pretty bad 3, to be honest with you. Palpad obviously improves your top decks. He needs Tasada. So I imagine a couple of those are going back into the deck. I think the biggest issue is 9 energy in the discard pile. So I don't think you can even have manual attachments now. It's the Pokestop, gets rid of Vessel, but that's not live. Gets rid of Sada, which also really hurts, I think. He's going to play the Vessel, gets rid of Koraidon, and yeah, let's have a look. Nothing helpful. He had to back-to-back Sada, I think, to have a chance of winning here. So he really needed off the Roxanne to have Sada available and just has to pass. And I think with no manual attachment remaining in the deck, quick coin bonus for me there, I should be able to just cruise through. I don't think he has a way of taking a KO here. Top decks the Sada, can draw 3, but yeah, with no turn attachment, he just can't get over the line. So yeah, definitely a display of Roaring Moon and how complex the late game gets for it. Shai frustrated, but knows that it was fine margins, definitely in that game. Sometimes the Roxanne pays off for me there. Sometimes it doesn't, just based on what he was able to draw into. And unfortunate for Shai, getting close both games, but that sequencing towards the latter stages really is going to be the win or lose, the make or break of the archetype. Finding that balance between that aggression and finding the balance between having a board state and maintaining your threats throughout the game is going to be the real challenge of the archetype. Let's go on to some other considerations. As for other considerations for Gholdengo, I definitely thought that I didn't have enough draw power from supporter cards. The Morty's Conviction was not convincing whatsoever, so I definitely consider adding in some copies of Iono. It's obviously a very good early game card just to see more in the opening stages to get into our Buddy Poffins, and is reasonable in the mid game just to cycle some cards, because we so often reduce our hand size via Ultra Balls and Superiors that it's okay to use Iono at the beginning of the turn before we get into our coin bonuses. Additionally, Cynthia's Ambition could be a reasonable like 1 or 2 of within the deck list, giving you a huge burst of cards into your hand, once again before all your Gholdengo and your Greninja, giving you really good access to a huge chunk of your deck. Even if we don't increase the supporter count too much, a Palpad is certainly reasonable. We saw in that first game that without Roxanne I was basically defenseless. Unfortunately he couldn't pull it together, but I do think a Palpad would give us a lot of protection here, and if we are adding in that Palpad I would definitely consider Boss's Orders as an additional gusting option, possibly Countercatcher as well, just for another Irida searchable card alongside that Prime Catcher, so you have a little bit more gust within the deck. I do think that just 1 Prime Catcher is quite light. You could certainly see Boss's Orders coming in addition to the deck, or like I said, that item card in Countercatcher to keep high Pokestop ratios. And then we still have that tug of war between Palkia and Sizzle, Sizzle being a very powerful single prize attacking option with a free retreating Scyther, which is also really great in the deck. Even in Palkia builds, you sometimes still see that Sizzle, just for a different way that you can offset the prize race. So it's certainly a consideration card in the list. And then for the Roaring Moon list, we saw that the Pokestop was a little bit awkward, and things can just go out of balance if you get rid of 1 too many energy cards or key supporters. Even with a Palpad in the deck list, it still can be a huge hiccup for you. So there is some consideration towards the Artisan. Even though it's not that powerful, it gives you a little bit more control over what's remaining in your deck as you get to those late stages, and possibly Trekking Shoes could sub in for some extra discard synergy within the list. I'm also a massive fan of the Superior Energy Retrieval as a 1 count in the deck. We saw that once again, Shai, getting towards that latter stage, found it very difficult to have manual attachments in addition to those Sadas. Superior is not only a great way to get rid of more ancient cards in your hand and thin towards your overall damage output goal, but also it puts a huge chunk of energy back into the hand for more turn attachments throughout the late game, and also extra ways to use Radiant Greninja when we are digging for those crucial pieces. The deck is currently a little bit light on switching cards, and Jet Energy could come into the deck list, once again giving you more fodder for Radiant Greninja throughout the game, but also going to help out against the Great Tusk Mill and the Snorlax archetypes. Obviously there's a colorless in the attack cost of your Koraidon, so that would be the card looking to take advantage of jet energy throughout the game. If we believe in the deck reaching that sort of 260, 280 damage output threshold in the majority of matchups, possibly Cobalion is the better choice over the Defiance Band because it has a bit more recyclability and can be searched out more reliably than the Defiance Band, which you kind of have to just draw into naturally and hope that it doesn't get poker-stopped away. And then the final thing to mention is that there are still hybrid builds of Roaring Moon that still have a heavy emphasis on Roaring Moon EX with a number of Dark Patch within the list as well, still going for early Calamity Storm and gouging pressure. And then you have a single prize Roaring Moon as a lower damage cap, obviously in that deck list where you are playing far fewer ancient cards overall, but it can still easily ramp into other single prize knockouts and possibly even to some basic EX and V knockouts as well. Hope you enjoyed today's battle video, and I'll see you tomorrow for another one. Cheers.